Hey guys, just finished watching Marvel's Runaways, Season 12, Season 2, Episode 12, Earth Angel. I watched Episode 12 and 13 back to back. I'm going to be doing this into one video, one review of the two of them. So it's Episode 12, Earth Angel, and Episode 13 split up. Oh my God, what episodes ending this show. I mean, it's really interesting to see as to what the way things end with this show, just because it's such huge cliffhangers, which I'm going to get to at the end of this video and stuff. I'm going to go point by point here, but it's really interesting to see that they end it such on a huge cliffhanger, because everything's been getting canceled. Everything on Netflix is getting canceled. All the Daredevil stuff. We got Punisher coming out, and the whole meme online is that it's coming out in a couple of days, but it's going to get canceled like with probably by March. It's coming out in January 11th. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe not by February. I wouldn't be surprised in February, but I would bet money that by March it's going to be canceled, too, and everything like that. And then we'll probably have, Jessica Jones. And if not, they'll probably wait till Jessica Jones comes out and then cancel that, and then cancel the two of them. Because everything's getting canceled for the Disney streaming service. Now this, since it's done by Hulu, and done by Marvel, and Disney owns Hulu, they might just kind of say, when this Disney streaming service comes out, put season 3 on there and have move everything over, and just nothing really changes, right? But the whole thing with this, with Kevin Feige taking over Marvel TV and doing the Vision and the Scarlet Witch show, the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, all those shows like that, being done by Kevin Feige could be interesting like that. And then, do they really want to have this other show that's not done by Kevin Feige, but still in the MCU, but not under his control? So I think if he were to come on board, if they were to add him to this show, I think it could be something really interesting. There's only 2 seasons of this show so far, so there's really not much. It's like he would be like, oh, I need to change this, and this show doesn't really kind of. None of the Netflix shows. I guess there was some sort of thing where they could have played with that, but because it's with Netflix deals and stuff like that, they don't really own 100% of this, whereas Disney owns 100% with whatever's going on with this. So they could just say, hey, Kevin Feige is now in control of this TV show, and everyone has to listen because, Disney's boss, right? It's the type thing. So I think it's going to be interesting to see as to where things kind of go with that for this show. Now, since this show hasn't really, story-wise, it hasn't really it's really kind of self-contained. Yeah, it references things here and there in the MCU, but it just references that it's a part of the MCU and doesn't really kind of go anything like that. It doesn't affect anything else. So I think so far with this show, I think it would be, I think the way it's at right now, the way things go, they could just bring it to the Disney streaming service, and Kevin Feige could jump aboard with this. It's just at what point is he kind of stretched a little thin, but just to kind of keeping a track, like here, like he needs to just have his name attached to there, and just kind of briefly skim over it as they do the seasons. And here you go, type thing. And here's what or even have his name attached to this, but probably his assistant actually does the work, or just by making sure how it fits in to the main puzzle, right? I think that's really going to be interesting to see. I really hope they don't cancel this, because of the way that ended. Hopefully they could do is, if they, instead of canceling it, resolve it, but I don't see them doing that, especially because the way they drop these shows, they drop all the episodes. They're not going to cancel it right away. They'll cancel it in a few months. They'll wait 6 months, whatever, and then cancel it, and then we'll just never hear about a season 3 or something like that, and just never say anything. Then it just kind of fades into obscurity. And I think that's the problem with this show, and it's just such a good show. I'm really disappointed for that. But because it's not a weekly episode that you're reminded of, you're not waiting for it all the time. It's not like Arrow or Flash or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, which was on every week for so many months, right? It's always around. You kind of, people grew up watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D and stuff like that for 5-6 seasons, right? So I think that's really interesting with that. Whereas here, it's just bloop, here you go, bloop, here you go, and then you forget about it. From jumping into this season, I completely had forgot about everything. I needed to go back and watch a kind of recap of season 1 going into this, and I think that's kind of the problem why because of that effect with this show, which is also kind of the benefit of the show, is that they're able to write it as one season rather than having to write multiple episodes and write it as a complete story rather than multiple stories that have to kind of, have a beginning, middle, and end in every episode. Whereas in these type of drop and all the whole season at once type of thing, they can make it a lot more season driven rather than a beginning, middle, and end in every episode type thing, right? So I think that's kind of interesting to see. So we'll have to wait and see as to where things go with this, but I wouldn't hold my breath really waiting for a season 3 because of those things, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see as to where things go. It's anyone's guess really to see as to where things go for season 3. So let's jump into this episode. We start off this episode, we see that Leslie, she's having these weird dreams and stuff, and she's kind of like glowing, just like Carolina, and she's having a kid, and she's glowing and stuff. And one of the things I noticed later on, especially at the end of going into the ending of the last episode for season 3, is that all of a sudden she started growing really fast. Like she's pregnant and she's starting to notice like impossible to kind of mistake. And like they almost did, like at this point at the end of the episode, she's so pregnant that they could barely hide it. They would not be able to hide that in costume department, and they're not hiding it anymore. So I think that's really interesting with that. I think that's if I'm not mistaken, but the actress was actually pregnant during the last bit of filming in this. So they decided to kind of, at the beginning of the season it wasn't really noticeable, and at the end of the season when they done filming they couldn't hide it anymore. So I think that's really where they decided to kind of bring it a part of it, and I think that's going to be interesting to see as to where things kind of go with all this storyline. I think it's going to be quite interesting to see as to where things go. So we see that Leslie has this kind of weird kind of glow like Carolina in these kind of dreams and stuff. That was kind of interesting. I guess it was just some sort of weird dream she was having. We see Carolina wants to go and save her mother, but no one else really wants to. None of the other kids want to do that. But they end up her and a few of them end up going anyways to try and save her. We see Pride tries to test their weapons on their employees that they have, keep wiping their memories and trying their weapons so they don't kill their kids. I think that was interesting playing with that. We see Victor Stein tells Chase that he's losing time, he's blacking out, and we know that from he was infected. And we later on figure out in the last episode that he was infected by Jonah and stuff. That was just such a crazy reveal. That was really interesting to see that. We see Leslie tells Frank that she's pregnant and stuff. I think that was interesting. That really don't play into anything as to where things go with that. Doesn't really go anywhere too much, but just gives you a shock there. We see Nico takes the staff of wand back. I guess it's kind of calling her. She can't really give it up. She wasn't able to. I guess the breaking of the ties with it really didn't work, I guess. We see Zavin is watching. Obviously, we see the eyes going there. We know it's Zavin type thing. It was really obvious. If you know about him in the comic books, right? It's clear that he's obvious. And the one thing about Zavin is that he goes through all of his stuff, and we never get a reference to that he's a Skrull or anything. Nothing about that. So I think that was kind of disappointing for his character. But maybe they're waiting for season 3 to officially call him a Skrull type thing. And I think that'll be cool to see as to where things go with that. We see Frank traps Carolina. He ends up trapping Carolina in kind of this wooden shed type thing, and then he's like, "Oh, there's no tech in there. You can't break out and stuff." What? It doesn't make any sense. Later on in the 13th episode, he's fighting Stein, who we know is Jonah now, and he blasts her, knocks her over. Why can't she just blast out? She can fly. Why can't she just fly her way out? She doesn't need to have tech to be able to break out of a wooden box. Why can't she just break her way out, blast her way out? It makes no sense as to why she couldn't get out of there. That was just kind of the silliest thing. And she's been doing that for a while now, lifting things, pushing things. A few episodes ago, she was floating and she was holding Alex up while he was like making him float and floating herself. So why couldn't she kind of just push the door down? Let's say even if her beams are not deadly, let's say, which she has used them pretty powerfully to blast people, and to make it work. So I feel like she could totally, either one, if her powers are light based, then she could kind of, if you look at Eclipse over on Gifted, use it to kind of like burn the place down. She should be able to make heat bright enough light that the fire catches, just like a magnifying glass effect, right? And then be able to burn down the building, or she should be able to just kind of blast the door and knock it off, which kind of make no sense there as to why she wasn't able to. We see Carolina ends up meeting her grandmother and stuff. That was a really cool revelation. And then she uses kind of her powers to kind of, to when she's trying to escape from the church and everyone's kind of not letting her, she's not be able to escape. She turns on her powers and kind of floats around and becomes the Messiah for everyone. I think that'll be interesting to see. I guess that'll have to play into season 3 if we get it. They end up bringing Leslie to the secret house and stuff. That was kind of a weird choice that they did that, but we'll see where things go with that because she's now pregnant and stuff. So that'll be interesting to see. She clearly doesn't have any energy to kind of fight them anymore, fight her kids and stuff. So that'll be interesting to see as to where things go with that. We see Chase ends up finding empty. He finds empty memory wipe bottle and stuff. He never really brings that up to Pride, so I think that's kind of interesting to see. He hears about the workers, who the employees who we saw at the beginning of this episode who were having the weapons tested on them without them knowing by Pride and stuff. We see Chase. He sees the empty memory bottle. He knows what that is. He hears about them being drunk and stuff, having a hangover. So he can't put two and two together. Those informations. It was clear the way they showed us. It was clear that he knows about that. He knows about them being, quote unquote drunk, finding the empty bottles. He has to have had that information. There's a reason why those 2 points never go anywhere within that episode or even the next episode as to, I guess it's just 2 things that he's just keeping, in the back of his mind that, he has to be careful and not completely 100% trust Pride, even his parents, right? He always has to have something in his back pocket, which doesn't like he has, but he has all these kind of things kind of every time he goes too much, it seems like every time he tries to go too much and accept Pride, he gets these little things that kind of like, he finds the empty memory bottle, and he hears about the employees feeling drunk, from the hungover from the night before, but nothing really happened, right? So that's really interesting for that, and that never really goes anywhere. We see Pride, they straight up just ask him to help them. Otherwise, they just ask Pride to join him, and he does, type thing. Pretty much, he just joins them because what else is there? Either join them or run away, right? There's no other option, right? And he wants to stay around, so he wants to rather if he does that while they're there, he can make sure they don't hurt them, rather than kind of just sitting there doing nothing, right? And being a neutral, right? That's not helping anyone if he is neutral, right? So we see Zavin at the end of this episode reveals himself to, or herself, whatever, to Carolina. And then we begin the next episode with him telling them about the prophecy and all that stuff. But he never referenced himself as a Skrull or a Super Skrull. Now I knew they probably wouldn't be doing the Super Skrull thing, because if I'm not mistaken, Super Skrulls is definitely a Fox thing that I know. Fox own the Super Skrulls, they own Fantastic Four, so these Super Skrulls with Human Torch thing and all the Fantastic Four powers would obviously be tied into the Fantastic Four, deal or owning of the Fantastic Four licensing and stuff. And so with Disney, at least at the time, probably when they were writing the show and making the show up, they probably didn't know for sure whether or not if they would be able to. And I'm not sure if at this point, since it sounds like they're so close to being done with the Disney deal, I'm not sure if they would be allowed now for it to come out, but they just weren't sure, obviously, when they were making the show, whether or not they could put that in and get away with it. So hopefully if we get a season 3, which the way they ended, because they ended on a cliffhanger, I'm hoping that they know whether or not they're getting a season 3. We'll have to wait and see as to where things go with that. But if they do get a season 3, they can have him reveal himself as a, as a Super Skrull with all those powers would be pretty amazing. I think it'd be quite interesting to see as to where things go there. So we see Nico walks in on Zavin, and he's on his knees, or it's on his knees type thing, and that's quite interesting with that. So that whole Zavin thing gets revealed right away. I'm glad he wasn't kept like a secret from everyone. That would have been kind of boring going into the next season, and still only Carolina knows about Carolina. Yeah, only Carolina knows about Zavin. I think that would have been a bit messed up. I see Pride tells Chase that if you can't get the kids to get their kids back, then it's war. They gotta go use their weapons, right? It's either first chance. If Chase doesn't win, can't get them to come back and stuff, then they got to use their weapons. So he ends up calling them up to meet up everyone, and they end up turning him down. And that's when Pride sends the drones after them. So we see Zavin tells Leslie, Carolina's mother, Leslie Dean, that they are coming for the baby. And I think that's really interesting. It's unclear as to who exactly it is. I'm assuming it might be Jonah, who's now in Victor, and Stacy York and Tina Maroon. They're both been affected by the beings inside of Jonah's ship and stuff. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like there was a lot of beings in there. I'm surprised there's not more than one. And then they do later on mention that there is a fourth person that was, infected, and it's probably one of the kids. And I think that's going to be interesting to see they never really reveal as to who it is. So that'll be cool to see as to where things go with that. We have to wait and see as to how things where things come out of there. That'll be quite interesting to see. So it wasn't Carolina. She's already part of that, right? I guess. But it's unclear if Carolina, does her soul have a different body, or just the first body? Imagine this would be the first body for her. And then, it looks like Chase is not part of them, definitely, because he would have noticed, right? Jonah's inside of Victor would have noticed that, if he was, they were the same, right? I think that would be that would have been known right away there. So we see Chase at one point, we see a little Easter egg. Chase is drawing on like a tablet thing, and he's drawing the leapfrog, which in the comics is a giant, is a vessel or their car type thing, where he ends up stealing from his father, if I'm not mistaken, that the Runaways end up using as their car, where they hop in it, and it literally is a giant frog, a robotic frog. They hop in, and they use that to get around. They leap everywhere. I think the first version actually just always able to only to leap, a bit, and then later on versions in the comics, it was upgraded to where it could fly and do all kinds of stuff like that. So that could be something interesting to see, as that ever comes into a season 3, but I don't see them bringing that in. Since how small and things have been staying with this show, I think it could be interesting. I don't think they'd be going that big and bringing something like that into the show. So we get the reveal that Jonah's in Victor. We see the staff of one ends up saving Nico from her parents. Her father gets cut in the jugular really bad. Although it's really it looks in the jugular and kind of bad and stuff, but we don't really get he's dying type thing. It looks like Tina just kind of gets him to the hospital, and that's it, but also she's taken over by the other being, type thing inside of her that's taken over her body. So it's unclear as to kind of how bad it was for her father. I don't see him really dying from that. I mean, it was on his neck and stuff, but they would have made it a lot more blood if they really wanted to kill him. I don't feel like he was even dead or anything like that from that. So I really don't know as to kind of what the kind of whole point was. I mean, Tina was launched back and she was completely fine. Why even have him injured like that? It doesn't make sense to me as to what's the point of that, I guess just to say, oh, he's out of the game now, I don't really know why they did that too well. I mean, they could have just had him, let's say a big piece of the glass got him in the shoulder and the arm, right? So his arm is down, he's healing from that, rather than cutting his neck and it's like, is he dying? I just would have had something like that, or maybe a big piece, sticks right into his chest type thing, not near his heart or anything, or just in his arm or something, that would have been like, oh, he's out, or in his thigh, in a leg or something like that. So it's like, oh, wow, but not a fatal wound. I just don't understand why they had it on the neck. It just didn't really make, it's kind of that weird, you going for the dying injury, or you going for just get him out of the game type thing, and it was unclear as to how they were kind of playing with that injury and why they were doing it. So we see Alex ends up framing his parents. It's unclear as to what he's framing. He was using the gun that Darius had got him, had put his fingerprints on. So I guess Darius had already used that gun for something nefarious, killing someone, whatever. Got Alex to put his fingerprints on. Alex wiped his fingerprints off of it and left it in, and then fired it again and left it in his parents' car. So they're going to get blamed for whatever Darius had. The gun was already involved. So I guess somehow there's another case that the police have that they'll feel like, oh, this is the weapon that ties to this case. These are the people who did that thing. But Alex doesn't know for a fact, for sure, what it was set up for. I mean, I'm not sure if California has a death penalty or not, but I guess he wouldn't want that to go, it's not, it could be one of those, murders that was that complicated, or, whatever Darius was involved in. It could have been something that's, outside of state lines, right? And there could be some sort of death penalty from another state, right? I think there could be connections like that. So I don't know, like, it would have been nice to know, was to see Alex kind of research as to what was the gun used for, what was Darius going to use, how was he going to frame, obviously he had Alex's fingerprints on it, he was going to frame him, but for what, what was there even anything, or was Darius just kind of talking, because he's just talking to Alex, a rich kid who could believe anything, right, at the point in the time when he was, a runaway and all that stuff. So Alex doesn't know the full story. He's just like, oh, Darius was going to frame me for something. Let me use that and frame my parents for that, not knowing whatever that is. That's just kind of, a little bit. I know he's in a bit of a situation, but he doesn't know what he's doing at all, And I think that would just be kind of, his mother's a lawyer and all that stuff. They're just probably going to get out of it really fast. So it's completely, and his parents never even touch the gun that we see. All the police do is find the gun there. But if there are no fingerprints on it, because he wiped his own fingerprints off of it, Alex did, then that's just going to be, wow, here's a gun in their car with no fingerprints whatsoever. That seems a bit weird. Rather than, I thought what Alex would have done is he was going to be waiting at the car, he was going to pull a gun on them, and, maybe Jeffrey's reaction, or his mother or father's reaction would be to grab the gun from him, right? And that's when he's like, yep, perfect, and they have the gun in their hand with their fingerprints on it, and the cops show up, and I think that would have made more sense. But here, like, he doesn't know the full story, and he's just kind of like, throwing an unknown case at them, which, could be something that's just kind of super easy for his mother to just kind of lure her way out of the situation. So we'll have to wait and see as to where things go with that. If we get to season 3, which I feel like she should be able to lure her way out of this, especially if they, what if whatever that gun was used for before, they have a perfect alibi, and, there's the whole gun there, but no one was shot. Alex, when he framed his parents, he didn't shoot anyone, at least not that we see. We just heard gunshots go off. So there's no proof that they actually did anything bad right there, just the fact that there was gunshots go off. If they can prove that whatever the gun was used to before, they were not there. Like, let's say that gun was used to kill someone another case a while back. If they can prove, like, oh, no, we were here, here's some footage that shows that we were here, then it's like, okay, you didn't do that previous murder that this gun is tied to, and we don't know what you did here when the gun was, when we were called and we showed up on the scene, then it looked, you know what I mean? There's just, he doesn't know what's going on, how to play that, and they might just be able to get out of prison really easy. So we'll have to wait and see as to where things go with that. And then we see the episode ends with Dale ends up taking Gert and No Lace and drives away. He kind of leaves Stacey York, and we find out that that's obviously what she wanted, because she's been taken over by a different host, different kind of being inside of her. And we see Chase, Carolina, and Janet Stein are all in these tubes, kind of as to who do we sacrifice first to kind of take in the life force. And that'll be interesting to see as to, Jonah needed one life, so don't they all need one life each? Or can they sacrifice one and split it 3 ways? And does it last as long as one soul did for Jonah, or would it last a third of the time because they're just splitting a third, right? Because how is that going to work? Because it seems like they all need one person. They need one soul each, rather than splitting 1 to 3, and then that. How long does that last? It's going to last a third of the time, is it not? I think that'll be interesting to see as to where things go there. So it's going to be quite interesting to see as to where things go with this show. Is it going to get a season 3? If it stays kind of down to earth and a small storyline, I could see it continuing on, especially if it gets moved to the Disney streaming service. But it would just be kind of weird to have a bunch of shows, like if all the shows get taken over and run by Kevin Feige, and then they have these storylines. And then he just starts putting his hand in all these storylines. what is it going to happen to the shows that he's not a part of? You know, if he has this one show that he's not connected to, he's not running. If he starts running, taking over the Marvel Marvel TV too, I think that is going to be quite interesting, quite difficult to see, especially with this, where things are going with this story are very, you know, an invasion, all this stuff that, if you have that happening here, it has to be referenced and everything else. So that's going to be quite interesting to see as to where things go there. Now, we do have our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff to see as to where things are going to go with that, how that's going to be connecting two things and stuff, but it's getting a shorter season this season, and it's already been confirmed. We're getting a season 6, and we're already getting confirmed for season 7, so that'll be interesting to see as if hope maybe these two shows will stick together and they will stay even if Kevin Feige takes over. But Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is already connected, you know, has Coulson and all that stuff. It'd be really easy for Kevin Feige to just jump on and be like, yeah, I'm running the show now. I'm going to be an executive producer on this show to kind of help to keep my eyes on it, to where this storyline is going, how it all fits into the giant storyline of the MCU. And I think it's going to be quite interesting to see as to where things go with that. I just don't know that does the MCU have any other plans that would be like, you can't have this going on while, you know, we have this Zavin alien invasion storyline going on the Runaways, you know. So we'll have to wait and see as to where things go with that. Maybe they can find a way. I mean, all shapeshifters and stuff, and it's a small storyline that kind of doesn't really, it's a big alien storyline that doesn't really get revealed because everyone's shapeshifters hosting different bodies and no one really knows, right? It could be something, a way to kind of to see as to where things go with that storyline. Could be quite interesting, but I'm not sure how things are going to go. So fingers crossed that we do get this continued on, that this does continue, but we'll just have to wait and see as to where things go from here. So let me know what you think, guys, about this season in the comments below. Do you think this would get picked up again, since this is entirely Disney? The thing with the Netflix stuff is that, you know, the Netflix wasn't part of it, that Disney didn't have control of the Netflix side of things. Whereas, if I'm not mistaken, Disney owns Hulu, so they'd have a complete control of this show. So we'll have to just wait and see as to where things go with this, but fingers crossed for season 3. So let me know what you think, guys, in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
I'm Captain America, here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have.
Subscribing.
Sometimes subscribing is the key to victory. Sometimes it leads to very little, and it seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointing. How many more of these?
You're still here.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Peace.
It's over.